The BMW 2002 TII is a great little car, but Mike's taken a huge risk buying one that hasn't actually run for 17 years.
At least Mike has done the right thing by manually turning the crank. So we know the engine isn't seized, but before I can even try and fire it up, there is a whole heap of preparation to do.
Because the car hasn't been run for so long, all of the oil will have drained down into the sump, leaving the top of the engine, the pistons and the bores of the cylinders very dry indeed. So if I was to try and turn over the engine right now in its current state, I could actually do some serious damage, like break a piston ring or something even worse.
First, I pour diesel in through the spark plug holes. It may seem odd putting diesel into a petrol engine, but it's to lubricate the cylinder bores. And it's such a small amount it won't do any harm at all. Then the rocker cover comes off and I put oil onto the camshaft.
Right, I've just attached a ratchet to the nut on the end of the crankshaft and the pulley. And the idea is I'm just going to rotate the engine by hand. And as I do this, the pistons are going to go up and down inside the bores and get coated in that lovely diesel. But at the same time, of course, the camshaft is spinning round. That's getting lubed up as well with the oil I just put on the top. But also, by turning the engine over, the oil pump is going to be distributing the oil into the crankshaft. So we're going to have oil all the places we want it.
After 17 years of the engine standing idle, the air filter will need replacing, and the old fuel will have gone off.
Over time it does oxidise and kind of creates these undesirable compounds that kind of gum up all the fuel lines and injectors and everything, so the best thing to do is get a shot of it.
With the fuel tank drained, I replace the fuel hoses, which could be contaminated or split. The fuel pump could also have been damaged by degraded petrol, and as it hasn't been run for so long, I'm going to replace it anyway. Now I need to look at the battery.
Inside a lead-acid battery there are loads of plates of lead surrounded by a whole load of sulfuric acid. Now over time in its natural cycle, unfortunately you get these sulfate crystals forming which start to cause little shorts, and so you end up with a dead battery, which is actually what we've got here.
As a result, it's out with the old battery and in with the new one. Now I can turn the engine on the starter motor, making sure oil gets right around the system. The spark plugs are still out, so I've removed the main lead to the coil and disconnected the fuel pump to avoid any risk of fire from a stray spark.
Now this is the first time this engine's been cranked over in 17 years. I'm hoping all that's going to happen on this occasion is some diesel, anything excess is going to be spat out of those spark plug holes, but let's see what happens.